Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to the Breakdown Automotive. Today we're filming with a 525 Wagon from 2003. And if this isn't the coolest car we've ever reviewed, I don't know what is. I don't know what keeps happening, but I keep falling in love with early 2000s BMWs. The X5, the old 5 Series that we never did a video on. I love it. Look at all of the character it has. Before we jump into the video, I just want to say if you enjoy automotive content, go ahead and subscribe to the channel and like the video for more content like this. Let's go ahead and jump into the video doing an overview of the 2003 BMW 525i Wagon, I think. Let's go. I have to state the obvious. It's beautiful, and minus the fact that this microphone is probably picking up every bit of wind in here, the 5 Series is just beautiful. I've always been a huge fan of BMW wagons ever since I went to Germany in like 2006. I rode in a 5 Series wagon, and this is the first time I've had the chance to drive one, and I can't believe how practical this car actually is. One of the things that I've become accustomed to with the 4 Series is how impractical it is with a rear bench, kind of, and no rear storage whatsoever. But the 5 Series, it's got a rear seat that I can actually fit in, and it has a boot. One weird thing I have noticed about early 2000s BMWs is that while they're kind of built like tanks, they're also built questionably. The transmission in this one doesn't seem to enjoy moving. In fact, the entire car, I think, prefers to stay stationary. When we were leaving and pulling out at a red light, the car just died at the intersection. Just stopped. As soon as I put my foot down, everything just turned off. And it decided it didn't feel like it anymore. But like a champ, the 5 Series started right back up and we were on our way. Typical BMW life. On top of that, this 5 Series actually has ventilated disc brakes. It actually does really well stopping, which makes sense because it likes staying stationary. Another thing I really like about this 5 Series is the rear design. It reminds me of the Z3 clown shoe, and I really like it. It's, to be fair, a bit awkward of a design. The taillights are early 2000s BMWs and kind of hideous. But it looks like the clown shoe from back here, and to be fair, it is a clown shoe, just a bigger one. So one of the things, like I said, that I like most about this BMW is the fact that it's the first BMW I've driven since the X5 that actually has some storage. In fact, I can fit in the boot of the 5 Series. Not comfortably, but I can do it. Just, yeah, close me on in. There we go. I can fit in the boot of a 525i. One thing I will note is that the panel up here is missing, but what do you expect for an early 2000s BMW? I am baking in here. Nick, let me out. Thank you. More comfortable than the rear seats on the 4 Series. Thank you, kind sir. Now let's try the rear seats, because let's be honest, this is meant for people. It is the ultimate driving machine, but this one actually has some rear leg room. Okay, not too much, but that's okay. And I would say that side has more, but it doesn't. So we'll just squeeze on in here. Look, I can fit back here easily. I could easily sit in the back of the 5 Series for a good 10 minutes before I wanted to jump out. It's amazing to me how big cars have actually gotten, but considering people are quite tall, it makes sense. Also, there is no rear headroom, so don't expect that in your early 2000s 5 Series, I suppose. You've got automatic windows, an ashtray, one on both sides, and that's pretty much it. You've got a reading lamp and a coat hook. But, surprisingly, in this car, I don't have to sit sideways, so there is actually room for the drone, the controller, 2 MacBooks, and the camera back. It's also still very hot in here, so let's go ahead and climb up to the front seat. Alright, so heading into the front seat, which is where you really want to be, because this car is actually very fun to drive. You know, I reviewed European Auto Garage's Jetta, or Passat, a few months ago, but it was nowhere near as nice as the 5 Series. So in typical early 2000s BMWs, the buttons are not necessarily of the highest quality. On top of that, the gauge cluster is extremely overwhelming. I don't understand why there's so much useless information on there, but you do have your digital display that you can change to view different parts about the car, such as your speed, the date, timers, and whatnot. You also have 4 automatic windows, which for an early 2000s car is pretty impressive. That actually feels really good. You can thank Nick for allowing us to use the BMW while his is in the shop again. And one of my favorite features about early 2000s BMWs is the quality of, or lack thereof, of the wood. It is plastic, and as you can see, it likes to crack a little. That's okay, a little crack is good in your life. This also doesn't work. And on top of that, the cover for the cup holder has fallen off, but don't worry, the cup holder is still there. Another thing I've noticed, that doesn't open, but you do have 2 more cup holders down here. Something else that really did surprise me though is that you have heated seats in the front, which is pretty luxurious for early 2000s. And possibly my favorite feature about early 2000s BMWs is the business CD by BMW. I'm not gonna lie, I really enjoy that. I love cars where you can hide away features that you don't need all the time, and that it adds a touch of elegance to the car. So let's do something we haven't done in a breakdown automotive video in quite a while. Let's drive the car. Nick, if you would, we're going to go for a quick drive for the camera. Go to Best Buy. One of the things that I like most about the 5 Series is actually how comfortable it is. It really surprised me how well this thing still absorbs bumps after 15 years. Something that doesn't work too well is the air conditioning. You have about 27 settings that you can choose from. A bit of overkill really when you have to manually select each one of them over and over with some of the world's flimsiest buttons. And about that ride quality, that was kind of a joke. There you go. Another strange thing in the 7 Series that Nick had a while ago, you would drive around and people in lesser BMW models would look at you and go, and this happened most with old men who were driving around in a 5 Series or a 3 Series, and they would just sort of look at you with this look of disappointment. Not in you, but in themselves. It was really weird. But I get it now. Driving this thing, if a 750 Li pulled up next to me, I would go. Another great thing about this car is that the transmission sometimes just doesn't. But, it is a little frightening when it shifts gears. I wish I was in that. As far as everything else goes though, it's actually not too bad of a car. The steering wheel that they have installed here, none of the buttons work on it because, well, it wasn't manufactured with this steering wheel, I don't believe. But it is still very nice. Another thing that I do not understand about older BMWs is why there is so much unused space in the center console. The center console is as big as the passenger seat. Why? You could condense these buttons so much. So let's go. Yep, there it almost went. It does that sometimes. Actually, it does that more than sometimes. It does that every time you take off. One of the things I hate most about driving this car is that if you're stopped for too long and then put the pedal down any more than a quarter of a half of a millimeter, it'll stall. But that's probably a feature to keep you from launching the ultimate driving machine. On top of that, like I was talking about earlier, the AC in this car has so many settings that you can never really figure out how to get comfortable. So let's go ahead and try to do a quick pull. 40. 45. That was pedal down. In the ultimate driving machine. The horn is cute. I like the horn. I don't know, but something I've noticed is that when you're behind the wheel of a BMW, it doesn't matter what model it is, you just feel 10 times more a**holish. And I like it. I like it. See, the Range Rover only makes you feel about 7 times more a**holish, but a BMW is a car that you can get right up on someone's bumper with and really ride their ass. I like that feeling. Something else I have to say is that while this suspension is jarring, if you have to go over, let's say, anything, it is actually really smooth around the corners, and I appreciate that. I think this car's been really well designed, and while I can't speak to the suspension being stock, I like what's in it. So let's go again. Yep, there we go. Every time you take off in this car, you're a little scared that it's actually just gonna stop. Something else that's nice about this being a wagon is that you have so much visibility in the rear quarter panel that really blind spot monitoring wasn't needed back then, because all you had to do was turn your lazy head around and you knew what was behind you. But unfortunately now cars have quarter panels the size of states, so you can't really see what's back there. But in the wagon, it's not a problem. One of the things that is really nice about this car is it's small, and because it's small and it's a wagon, when you're backing up, you know that the end of the car is the actual end of the car. There's not a bumper that hangs off 40 feet from the rear window. And on top of that, it's the same story up front. Where the car ends in your line of sight, the car ends, and I like that. I think that's how it should be, because there was no need for park distance control. And now in a $33,000 RAV4 that I did a video on last week, it has PDC. And to be fair, if you can't drive a RAV4, what can you drive? So let's take off again. It's really not pleasant. And I know, it makes no sense to be criticizing a car that was designed 20 years ago. But this is an affordable car now. This is a car that you could buy as your first car and have fun with. My first car was a 2003 Honda Accord, and while I think the interior looked better, it certainly had less features and it was more expensive. So I'd have this, minus the transmission. So we've come to Best Buy so we can get an SD card for the drone, but essentially I'm going to be ending up the video here. If you guys enjoyed, leave a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel for more automotive content like this, and if you have any suggestions for future cars that we can film with, or if you have a cool or quirky car that we can film with, or that you want us to do a drone video of, let us know. We'll travel pretty much anywhere, but I hope you guys enjoyed. If you did, subscribe to the channel, leave a thumbs up, and I will see you guys in the next video.